Chrome, it should show up right in there. If you want to see the chat, it's like right there.
But it's not actually going yet, right? Or is it getting ready?
Oh, see, start. Okay. There you go. You are now live.
Well, hello everybody. This is the first time that I've attempted this. Nevin, the chat bar is not there. This is the first time that I've ever actually attempted to do this kind of live stream where I really hope that that the comment section shows up. So anyway, I wanted to give a little update. I've got my boy popping in and out here. He's kind of my tech guy, but I wanted to do a little update and also answer any possible questions if there are any questions. So I've got some things that I want to talk about here, and then if anyone pops into the chat room and has questions, we'll answer some questions. But I just kind of wanted to give an update on what's going on with our season and talk about some different things. Christmas is almost here, so the FDH store is still open. And so put the link down below. It's freelanceduckhunting.com. So if you want hats or shirts, we're gonna, my plan with the store is to build up some vendors on there for you guys. People that contact me, that kind of upstart people, not the big people that are making duck calls or making lanyards that want to sell some stuff. So my idea with the store right now, like I said, we just have shirts and hats. But my idea with the store over time is to build entrepreneur duck hunters that are just kind of doing it in their basement and sell their stuff. So that's kind of the idea. I've got a couple of duck call makers lined up for that. So anyway, if you do make some kind of duck equipment and you would like to possibly sell them on the store, email me and we can talk about that. It's got to be quality gear, but that's kind of the idea with the store. So anyway, below you'll see the link. It's freelanceduckhunting.com, and all right. So I just started this live streaming, and I'm not quite sure how to exactly this all works or how to work it, but I started it up and I had it on private. So I don't know if you watch this, you'll see the private, the couple minutes of private version. So I'm going to real quickly just go back over what I had said. So I'm making this live stream for a couple of reasons. I want to give you guys some updates onto what's going on here in FDH, what's going on with our hunting season, recap some things. And also, there should be an availability for you guys to chat and ask questions. So if people start popping in and asking questions, then I'd be happy to answer whatever questions that you guys have. So the store, FDH Store, freelanceduckhunting.com, we've got shirts there, and we've got hats. And as I was saying before when it was set on private, the idea with the store is to find vendors that want to sell stuff on our store. And the kind of people that we're looking for is just regular average waterfowlers that are making quality products and are trying to start up a business. So we've got a couple of duck call makers who are going to be selling their duck calls on our store at the beginning of next year, hopefully. And so if you do produce some things, lanyards, duck calls, anything duck hunting related, and you would like to possibly sell them on the freelanceduckhunting.com, email me and we can talk about that. So head on over there, shirts, hats, that kind of stuff. Also, don't forget Patreon, patreon.com. We're over there. We've got lots of really cool content over there. We've got our statistics, which are not looking very good the last few hunts. But we've got our statistics clear back to 2007. You can look at all that. We've got extras from hunts. So if I go on a hunt and I shoot a lot of footage, but I don't end up using a lot of it, extra footage that gets dumped over there, which actually there's some pretty interesting stuff that ends up over there. And also, if you are looking to make your own YouTube duck hunting, I can help you with that over there too. We do some of that. We have live Q&As. So anyway, I'm going to do this for a while, and I'm going to give these updates. If you guys pop in and start asking questions, and I'll answer questions. Like I said, I've really been working hard with the YouTube live stream and figuring out how it all works, and it's actually a lot more complicated than I ever expected it to be. So, I'm hoping that this is something that works out. But if people do pop into the chat and ask questions, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, then I just have some things that I want to tell you guys about. The boat, I've had a lot of people ask about the status of our boat. And Opening day in our region, I'm sure you guys probably saw on our hunt that we flipped up onto a log and flipped our boat over, and the motor had extensive damage. That has completely changed our entire season. So we've been without the boat ever since opening day, and it's bogged down in the shop. It took forever to get it through insurance and get everything approved and everything. But right now, finally, the mechanics have all the parts that they need. But they're very unresponsive. They're hard to get a hold of. The whole thing has just become extremely frustrating. So we have no idea when the boat's going to be. Actually, when the motor is going to be repaired. The boat had a gash in it. We did get that welded. So we've got the boat. We may start using it with a trolling motor. But we have no idea when the motor itself is actually going to be fixed and ready to go. So hopefully that'll get done soon, because we sure do like to use it. It opens up a lot of possibilities of what we're doing and how we go about doing things with having the big boat. So when we've been hunting lately, it's just been over, we've been going places that we can still use our layout boats, but it cuts us off a lot of places we like to go when we don't have that big boat to use. So, but hopefully by the end of the year, I mean, honestly, at this point in time, the way this is going, I'm not even sure we'll have it until next year. So, but it is in the shop, and it's being prepared. And if you're just joining us, feel free, like I said, to ask questions in the chat menu. I'd be happy to answer. This is a live stream, so feel free to ask any questions that you might have. So this season, we started off really, really hot during teal season. We shot a lot of ducks early. And everything kind of took a turn for the worse on that opening day when we flipped the boat. Ever since then, we've had really tough time with our hunts. On our hunt trip, we did okay. But actually, I was looking over my stats, and I have gone into the worst slump, not shooting wise, but just as far as number of ducks shot. In the last 5 hunts, I've shot 1 duck and lost that 1 duck in 5 hunts. And I was looking through my records, and since we've kept detailed records since 2007, and I've never gone 3 hunts in a row without shooting a duck. And currently, I've got 5 hunts in a row without shooting a duck. And I don't know what's going on. This area that we're hunting, we've been doing scouting, and we've actually 2 different times we've had ducks located in areas, and we get out there and it just doesn't happen. So we're mired in this really bad slump, but we've got this weather coming in, and so the weather has changed everything. This huge cold front came in, and right now, from what I'm seeing and everything, thousands and thousands and thousands of mallards are pouring into the state. So I'm extremely optimistic with the next few hunts, because we got to break this slump bad. So I did have a question come in. How many decoys do you throw this type of year? Well, at the beginning of the year, we were using about 5 or 6 dozen, and we were having a lot of problems landing birds. We were having birds circle us and just not commit. So since then, we've kind of trimmed it up, and we've been going with about 18 to 25. I like the big spreads, but they just weren't working for us. So we kind of cut back on what we were doing, and we've been using about 18 to 25. Now, in the cold weather, I'm hoping that we're going to be hunting the river. Everything's going to be frozen by tomorrow morning, locked solid as far as the shallow water. So my hope is that we'll be either hunting this river spot that we've got or a big lake. So we'll probably throw a really big spread. Well, really big for us is 6, 7 dozen decoys with about half a dozen to a dozen goose floaters. So that's kind of where we're going with our spread now that we're going bigger water and rivers. We'll probably throw as big a spread as possible at it. Another question. Do I think the slump is because that we're hunting spots we don't normally hunt? No, I don't. The spots we've been hunting are traditionally extremely productive spots. I think that we've had floods the last 2 years in a row in this place that we've been hunting, and so we've got a lot of water, but there's not much food in the place we've been going. And I mean, they can always eat invertebrates, but there's just not a lot of food. So with the warm weather and the lack of food, I think that's the biggest reason. I'm tracking some other guys in the state that I kind of watch, And I think the areas in this state where there's lots of food, guys are doing better. There's just not that many ducks because it's just been too warm. So I think that the weather is the ultimate problem. The weather and lack of food is why we haven't been shooting them. Let's see, another question. Huge cold front up in Idaho. Yeah, I think the ducks are going to be pouring in, TJ. I'm really, really hopeful that they're going to pour in. Are you guys ever going to take a trip to go see duck hunting? I would love to go see duck hunting. The problem is I'm actually a teacher. I haven't talked about that a lot, but I'm a teacher, and so needless to say that my budget is a little bit limited. I would love to see duck hunt. I've got 10 days basically that I can take off for whatever I want. They're not really sick days, and so if I were to take 5 of them, if I had someone on the coast that really wanted to take me sea duck hunting and was certain that we could have success, then some year I might take a 5-day trip or something or a week off and go and do it. But I've got those 10 days, I've got to save about 3 of them just for regular sick days. So it limits me to what I can do. So I would love to see duck hunt, but I never really have. WA Outdoorsman was asking how the boat's looking. I actually reviewed that before you dropped in, but the boat is bogged down in guys that won't answer our phone calls. They've got all the parts. They won't answer our phone calls. I have no idea when it's going to come back. But at this point in time, we've got the boat and a trolling motor, and we may use it Saturday. But as far as the actual motor, I have no idea when it's going to be done. Would you ever take a Patreon subscriber hunting? I've had VA Outdoors asked if I'd ever take a Patreon subscriber hunting. Under the right circumstances, V8, I certainly would. The problem is that I do not like to hunt with more than 4 guys. Before I started videoing, we only hunted 3, no more than 3. I just can't stand big groups of hunters. Now that we video, I don't mind hunting 4 because we have 1 guy running the camera and 3 guys shooting. But there's so many guys just that I know that want to hunt, that are asking me to hunt all the time, that it just depends on the situation. If there was a Patreon subscriber in the area that wanted to get together on a hunt, I could probably do something like that. It just all depends on the location and how it worked out. Let's see if there's any other questions. What size shot do we shoot? We start off the season using 4s, and as soon as I start seeing mallards around, I switch over to 2s. So we go 4s until mallards show up, and then we switch over to 2s. Let's see if there's any other questions here. So anything else you guys want to ask away. Other things I did want to talk about is which I mentioned on a little bit, is the weather shift. So the weather 2 years in a row has been absolutely horrible. It's just been so warm, and all the ducks have been up north. We've been in a weird cycle for about 4 years now, because we had about 5 years where we had 3 years of drought, and we followed those 3 years of drought with 2 years of terribly warm weather. So we've been kind of struggling the past few years, but this cold shift should bring in tons and tons of birds. Do I deer hunt? I've never actually been on a deer hunt. Dan has deer hunted quite a bit, but once I got him into duck hunting, he stopped and doesn't deer hunt anymore. My dad actually used to deer hunt quite a bit. He was just kind of a meat hunter, but he shot out in western Kansas a non-typical mule deer that's just a monster. And so he has done some deer hunting, but I grew up upland game hunting in the middle part of the state. Didn't duck hunt at all. We hunted pheasant, quail, prairie chicken. We hunted prairie chicken like you wouldn't believe. I mean, that at one point in time, the 2 things that we hunted more than anything else was prairie chicken and turkey, and we actually bow hunted turkey. And prairie chicken are so much fun to hunt. Anyway, so we upland game hunted. And then we kind of started losing some of our land and everything, and we tried duck hunting. And as soon as we started duck hunting, we just became obsessed with it, and that's all that we started doing. We just didn't do anything else except for duck hunt. So I don't do anything other than that. Adam says, what is the best way of going about asking farmers to hunt private property? All right. You don't want to call them on the phone when you're asking for private property. Now, I have more experience with this with upland game hunting back from my high school days, and when I was in college, I used to chase snow geese around, and that would just land in fields and stalk them. But you don't want to call them on the phone. You want to get them face to face and just be as nice as possible. I would immediately, what I do when I knock on the door and ask for permission is I tell them I'm a school teacher because that automatically kind of lowers people's defenses. But you want to look them straight in the eyes. You want to smile a lot. You want to reassure them that you would never ever trespass on their land without their permission, and talk to them as long as possible. Sometimes the first time that you talk to them, they may say no, but if you just kind of talk with them and smile a bunch and everything, you may drop back by the next year and get a different answer. So, and also if you do get permission, then what you need to do is send them a gift, send them a card. Make sure that if you've hunted on them, take them, just some kind of follow up with them and let them know how much you appreciate them. Let's see if we have any other questions here. All right. Let's see anything else I was going to talk. Oh, Dan's gun. This was a topic that I really need to shift Dan's thinking on, and I've had some comments. I don't know if you guys watched the last video, but in the last video, Dan, he blames me for it, and I guess it might have been a little bit my fault. I don't know. But anyway, the gun fell down into the water, and he got a bunch of mud in the barrel, and his idea was he was just going to shoot through it and shoot the mud out of it. And everything that I've ever been told is that if you have even a little bit of obstruction in your gun barrel, that it's going to blow the end of the gun barrel off. And he was saying things like, I saw that he commented on that thread and was like, if anyone has a gun and wants me to try it, I'll try it. I think he's gonna. If I don't keep tight reins on Dan, he's like gonna blow his hand off or something because he's just a little bit crazy. So, I need to shift his thinking about his gun barrel. But everything I've ever known is that you don't ever pull the trigger to try to clean out a gun barrel. So, I don't know. See if there's anything else. We don't hunt private because we don't have private ground. WA Outsports says, "Why don't you guys hunt private?" Well, we don't have anyone around here. I didn't grow up in this area. I grew up in the middle part of the state, and I had an uncle who was a farmer out there, and we had tons of upland game land. But I don't know of any places around here. I mean, if it was going to be private, it would probably just be ponds. And what I would like to do if I had more time is to drive when the hunting is stale, is to drive around and look for ponds that um, hold birds and then ask for permission to hunt them. But as a teacher, I've got basically Saturday. So my scouting time that I get is very, very limited. And that's one thing that hurts us is that we kind of just hunt things blind. We've got places that we think are really good, that we really like. And so we just kind of go into places to hunt blind. So I don't hunt private land because I don't know of any good private spots. And I don't really have the time during hunting season to go out and look for them. Guys, hold on one second. I've got to plug in my computer. It's going to die, and I'll be right back. Let me take care of that. There we go. Sorry about that. Let's see if there's any other questions. But anyway, that's why we don't hunt private land. We just don't have any private land opportunities. We don't have any places that we even know of. Why don't you go on guided hunts? True Methods wants to know why we don't go on guided hunts. I don't want to pay to hunt, number one. And number two, I want to be able to find places myself, and I want to be able to get it done myself. So I don't want to pay the money for someone to take me on a place. I don't have anything wrong with guided hunts. It's just not something that I really want to do. I want to be able to find the birds myself. I want to be able to get off in an area where no one is by myself and feel totally isolated. So, I wouldn't be totally opposed to going on a guided hunt once in a while. It's just I really just don't want to. I don't want to pay for it, and I want to do it myself. What shells do we shoot? Federal. Actually, I have a video on that, Mason. If you look in the discussions, that talks all about the ammo that we use. But we use federal fours and twos. How many hours of public land scouting do you normally do? Says Noah. I scout preseason a bunch to just see what the land's like, what the water levels are like, where the best food is. But during the actual season itself, I do very little scouting just because I don't have the time. Like I said, I'm a teacher. I have Saturdays off. My wife is awesome enough to let me go out every single weekend, basically as much as I want. But that leaves me one day a week. She wouldn't probably be cool with me going out every Saturday and Sunday. And then I've got, like I said before, I've got 10 days that I can take off from work that I can kind of sprinkle it in. But I don't have the time during the season to scout. Do you have any flooded timber? Actually, we do have flooded timber in this area. We've got several. We've got a couple of spots that I would consider flooded timber. We haven't been able to get to them because we need the boat to get in there. In fact, my favorite spot ever that we've got is flooded timber, but we just haven't had a chance to get in there and hunt it. Mason asks, what grade do I teach? I actually teach third grade. I'm an elementary school teacher. I've taught grades second up through fifth. And so I've been doing that for 18 years. And yeah, it can be a really good job. It can also be extremely frustrated. Let's see other questions. Oh, my favorite zone in Kansas. Well, V8 Outdoors wants to know what my favorite zone in this state is. I grew up in Salina. I know V8 is from Kansas. So I grew up in Salina. And so I love the early zone. I'm tempted to call out names. V8, if you ever want to know that, you feel free to email me at freelance.stuckhunting@gmail.com if you'd like to. I don't want to throw out specific names. But the early zone spots, I grew up... I started duck hunting at about 19, and I really cut my teeth on the early zone spots. So I love the prairie marshes. Around my area, there's more flooded timber and more trees, but I love the prairie marshes of Kansas. So, but if you want more specifics on that, V8, I'd be happy to talk with you in private. Why don't you come hunt public land in Missouri? It's a draw method, Matthew said. Matthew, actually, I've thought a lot about hunting Bob Brown. And it's not that far from me. And I think there's another place called Nottoway. There are Missouri places from my house that are 45 minutes to an hour. I've only been hunting this part of the state since about 2007. So I just haven't got over to doing it. There's so many places that we've got over here. I mean, if I sat down and made a list of the places that I like to hunt just in my area here on the Kansas side, it'd probably hit 15. So I mean, there are places that I know are good spots that I don't ever hunt just because we have so many. So I would like to actually get up and try Bob Brown and I think it's called Nottoway and places like that. I haven't gotten around to it, but it's on my list to do. I just need to get it done. Avian wants to know, have I tried using goose decoys in areas that you see geese to bring in ducks? Avian, I can tell you that in the marshes that we hunt, I have literally never seen geese come into anyone's spread. I've never seen it. We don't shoot geese until it gets really cold, and we shoot them on the big lakes and on the rivers. But I've never ever seen geese go into anyone's spreads on these little marshes that we use. Now, every now and then you might get something at about 45, 50 yards that you take a pot shot at. But I've never seen it. So we have tried some goose decoys just for ducks because I know a lot of people are starting to actually think that you're better off with a more goose heavy decoy spread and less ducks to pull ducks in because it's just less common. The problem with goose decoys is that, we typically just have our little layout boats that we're portaging in, and the goose decoys just take up a lot of space. So, but we do have a few goose decoys, and hopefully we'll be hunting the river this weekend, and we'll get to use them. See if there's anything else I've missed here. Max says, do I think that different ducks have different tastes? No. I do not think that. I think that all ducks taste basically the same. And I think that people that say like shovelers taste terrible and gadwalls taste terrible, I would be willing to bet you that if you did a blind taste test, people couldn't tell the difference. So um, I like greenheads because it's a thicker meat, and the way that I typically cook them is basically like a steak, where it's just marinated, thrown on the grill, and that's how I cook them. But so I do like greenheads just for the thickness of the meat. But as far as how they taste, I don't seem to think that there's any difference. And maybe sometime it'd be a really good video to do like a taste test, like a blind taste test, and just do like 3 or 4 different kinds of ducks, and just see. But I can't tell the difference between it. Let me scroll back up through here. How many ducks do you get on average? Well, you know what, Star Wars Sammy, if you go to Patreon, for only like $3, you can look at all of our statistics over there. But to me, my goal in duck hunting is some year to shoot 100 ducks. So I'm only able to hunt about 25 times a year. So that would mean that I need to average 4 ducks a hunt to shoot 100. And I've never averaged 4 ducks a hunt. So I've never been able to get that 100 number. I shoot in the 70. I shoot anywhere between 50 and 79 ducks. I've never broke into the 80. I typically, my goal is for a 3 ducks per hunt average, but a lot of times I think that my lifetime since I've been keeping track is about, if I'm not mistaken, 2.7 ducks a hunt. So anywhere between 50 and 79 ducks is about how many I shoot a year. So just depending on what's going on in the year. But my goal is at some point in time to shoot 100. Fummelmitz, my dad Carl, he shot over 100 several different times, and he actually shot 49 drakes in a year, which I will be chasing that statistic way past the time that he's dead, unless I can find a different job to do and get out more. If I could hunt 40 times a year, I'd shoot 100 ducks easy, but I can only get out about 25. I've gotten up to 28 times a year. Just my schedule, I just can't do any more than that. Favorite type of duck to shoot? True Methods asked. That would definitely be mallards. Mallards. I'm always in the hope for a pintail. Perfect limit for me would be 5 mallard drakes and a pintail drake. Let's see. Do you get many divers in the state? I'm trying to get as many of these questions as I can, guys. It's just kind of flipping through fast. So if I've missed yours, feel free to put it in again. And I've got probably about 10 more minutes I can go on this. But this is, I'll do it again some other time. I'm actually trying to set up a way where I would have my dad and myself on here both taking questions, but I haven't quite figured out how to do that multiple set up yet. So anyway, let's take a look at the questions here. Hardest duck to hit? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Anything that's moving fast and sideways. Divers in the state. We don't have near as many divers in the state as what I wish that we had. We've been seeing more and more redheads, but I haven't shot a bluebill for probably 4 years. I've shot a couple ringnecks. We get more goldeneye late in the season, but we don't have that. We don't really have that many divers, and when we do get them, they're just pooled up on the big reservoirs and really hard to get at. So, let's see. Another question about the big boat, which I have covered, but I don't know when the big boat's going to be done. The motor's still bogged down in the shop, and the guys won't even hardly answer our calls, and they just got the parts, and they're lazy. So I don't know when we've got the big boat welded this week because there was a gash in it. So we actually may take it out Saturday because we may hunt a reservoir. And so we may just use the trolling motor because we only need to get a couple hundred yards to get to the spot. But the big boat is a total pain. It's changed our whole season for the worse ever since that happened. And so it's been the whole thing's been a nightmare from start to finish. If you guys are on here and you have not seen that video, go into the playlist and you can find, I think it's hunt number 11 or 10 or 11 where we flipped the boat. And it was on opening day we flipped the boat. So head on over, take a look at that if you haven't had a chance to do that. Are there refuges we can hunt? Mason says. I'm not, here in this state, refuges mean you can't hunt it, really. I mean, there's national refuges, and a couple of those around here. But when I think of a refuge, I think of someplace you can't hunt. So, Matthew, I see you talking about Bob Brown. Feel free to email me at freelanceduckhunting@gmail.com. I would love to talk with you a little bit more about Bob Brown. Four Rivers is a little bit far from me, but Bob Brown is definitely within the range. I would love to email with you and talk with you about that, and just see kind of how often you can get in, because it's a draw system, how often you get turned away. But I would love to hear about it. It's only about an hour and a half for me, and I just never done it. Hey, old Danny Boy is on. He says zero ducks on river. Dan Colombo is on the chat board, and that's actually Danny Boy. Dan, don't worry about no ducks on the river. Tomorrow morning, Dan is scouting the river for us. He, on the way to work, he goes right by this area and takes off and looks for ducks. And Dan, tomorrow morning's the big morning, because so if they're not there tomorrow morning, I still have a really good plan B. So don't worry about it, Dan. Let's see. Do you guys ever try securing permission from landowners to spots? And I answered that a little bit earlier, Virginia. We don't have any spots that we even know that we'd want to hunt. I don't. It's just around here. It's just farm ponds, and so, and we could field hunt. What I'd like to do is get a couple of really good fields by the river. It's just during the season, I just don't have enough time to scout because of my schedule. Have I ever killed a blonde mallard? Owning the Outdoors says. No, but I saw an albino teal. I don't know if that'd be called a blind teal or an albino teal. About 15 years ago, we had a group of teal that were swinging around our decoys, and there was one albino, but they never came in. And that's as close as I got to that. Was that albino teal? We have never hunted in Arkansas. I had no question about whether we hunt in Arkansas or not. Never have. Don't know anything about Arkansas. If we were gonna, it's definitely within our range. Once a year we take a trip, and we're willing to drive 5 to 10 hours on that trip. So I would definitely be willing to come to Arkansas. But if we were going to go to Arkansas, I'd have to do a lot of research on it. I don't want to go anywhere I don't feel like I can be successful. So I would really want to know the ins and outs of how to go about doing it, and give myself a chance to be successful. I know Corn, guy we hunt with, he's talking about wanting to go down there. We just need to research it. Never done it. So if you do have some knowledge about Arkansas that you want to share, feel free to email me at freelanceduckhunting@gmail.com. I'd be happy to look into that. Would love to go down there sometime. Oldest band I've got. Jason wants to know about bands. I've got 2 bands, and neither of them were real old. One was banded in Pennsylvania, and they were both mallard drakes, and the other one was banded in Saskatchewan. But neither of them were real old. They were about 3 or 4 years old. My dad, he's shot so many more ducks than I have. He's only shot one banded mallard ever, only one banded duck ever, and that wasn't very old either. But we were snow goose hunting a few years ago, and we had a whole huge, massive flock come over us, and it was Fumbles, Corn, and I, and we dropped like 9 snows out of this group, and one of them was banded, and my dad gave it to Jeff. I don't know why, but one of them was banded, and that bird came from, it wasn't that old, but it came from either Iceland or Greenland. It was banded like way up almost by the Arctic Circle, and that was so cool. And so Jeff still has that band, but I've got 2 and my dad's got 1. But that was really cool that it was banded almost in the Arctic Circle. What's your opinion on shooting bufflehead, other less tasty divers? I've never had the opportunity to shoot a bufflehead, so I don't know what they taste like, but I kind of can attribute that to hooded mergansers. And I know Dan shot a couple of hooded mergansers recently, and he made them and brought them over, and they were delicious. And I think that those would kind of go into the same kind of less tasty ducks. Every duck that I've ever shot that's been cooked properly is delicious. So I'll shoot anything that comes through. I would prefer not to shoot. If there's a lot of mallards flying, I'm not going to shoot at birds like buffleheads or hooded mergansers or goldeneye. It just depends on the day. On a good day, I'm not going to shoot hen mallards. But if I'm sitting there for 5 hours and I haven't shot anything, hen mallard comes in, I'm going to shoot it anyway. But typically, I'll shoot pretty much anything that comes into the spread, just depending on what's fun that day. Have you ever shot a coot? I have shot about 3 coots. I don't even remember why. I think a couple of them were just the day was so slow and they came through. And I can tell you that when I cleaned those coots, the meat looked disgusting. A coot, first of all, their feathers it's almost like a wiry hair. And the meat just looked all stringy and nasty. Yeah, I've shot 3 coots in my life, I think. But they looked really disgusting. So I don't plan on doing that and don't do that. And I think one day I shot one because I had limited out and I was just goofing around. But I did eat them. I did throw the meat in with the rest of the meat and eat them, but they were kind of nasty. Do you suggest making homemade blind out of your surroundings or using a layout blind? It says Max. I suggest that you have whatever you need for the situation. So I would rather be in a layout blind that I can brush, but we can't always, we do have layout blinds, but we can't always take them in with us just because we can only take so much gear. So if you can get your layout blind somewhere, use it and brush it. It's better than a homemade blind. And by homemade blind, I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, Max, tell me if I'm wrong, but by homemade blind, do you mean you're getting out in the field and you're making the blind yourself? Or are you talking about like a boat blind? Because if you're talking about like a boat blind, then I would absolutely take a layout blind over a boat blind because it's lower profile and it's less boxy. If you're talking about getting out in the field and making your blind out there, it's still the same thing. Anything time that you can lower your profile and lay on the ground, you're better off because it's just less. I think that ducks start they start seeing these big boxes, these big squares with artificial blinds on them, and they get wary to those. So anytime you can get on the ground and lay out, you're better off doing that than anything else. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that comment. I love making these videos. I talked a little bit earlier that we are in one of the worst slumps that we've ever been in our hunting career. And, in fact, the last 2 years, since I started making these videos, we've done really, really poorly on big ducks. And so we're in kind of a slump right now of just not doing very well. And anyway, we're going to hopefully break that over soon. But the last 2 years have been really poor for us. And I mentioned earlier, the reason why I think so is the reservoir that we hunt doesn't have that much food. And I think that with the weather, with the fewer ducks, they're heading to the areas with more food. I mean, we've got invertebrates, but we just don't have the high concentration of moist soil vegetation. And so I think that's really the reason that we've been struggling. And we lost the big boat, so we haven't been able to go to some places that do have a lot better vegetation. So that's a problem with that. What gun do I use? I've got an Outlander A300, which I find to be an excellent gun. The only problem with the Outlander A300 is that if it gets damp or it gets a little water on it under 25 degrees, it locks up, which is a pretty bad flaw of a gun. So if it's cold at all, I've got to make sure that gun doesn't get wet, because if it gets wet, it's going to jam. All right, well, guys, my wife is telling me that her parents are coming over soon. So anyway, I better get going, but this is the first time I've tried anything like this, and I think it's gone pretty well. I don't know whether I'll actually try to schedule them in the future or what, but I've really enjoyed this, and thank you for all your questions, and thank you for taking the time to stop by. And good luck with your hunting. I really hope that we're going to be successful this weekend with this weather change, because we really could use a good hunt. I'm dying to get a good hunt in. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys, and good luck with your hunting, and be safe. Let it go. Let me make sure that I just X'd out everything.